voice. Terry's carefree adventures seemed a stark contrast to their own besieged existence. Yet, her message of resilience, of not letting anyone dim their sparkle, resonated deeply. A few weeks later, another postcard arrived, this time from a glossy image of a cliff diver soaring into the turquoise sea. It was from Janet and Philip. Dearest Jack and Vicky. Honeymoon bliss. Acapulco is divine. The beaches are even more beautiful than we remembered. And the food, oh, Jack, you'd love it. Philip is spoiling me rotten. We're already planning our next trip back. We'll be home soon, probably next week, and we can't wait to hear all about how you two are doing. I hope you're settling into your new place, and that everything is wonderful. Lots of love. Janet and Philip. They sound so happy, Vicky said, a genuine smile replacing her earlier wistfulness. It's nice to know that some things actually work out. Jack squeezed her hand. Ours will too, Vicky. We just have to keep fighting. The postcards were a lifeline, connecting them to their friends, reminding them that joy and happiness still existed in the world, even if it felt distant at times. They also served as a subtle reminder of the life they had left behind in the old apartment, a simpler time before Mr. Bradford's shadow had fallen upon them. When Janet and Philip finally returned, they were a picture of newlywed bliss, radiating happiness and contentment. They visited the Regal Beagle, eager to catch up with Jack and Vicky. "Oh, Jack! Vicky! It's so good to see you both!" Janet exclaimed, giving them each a tight hug. "How are you settling in? We're dying to hear everything." Jack and Vicky exchanged a look. They had decided to be honest with Janet and Philip, knowing they could trust their friends. Over coffee and pastries, they recounted the saga of Mr. Bradford's purchase of the building, his relentless harassment, the escalating fines, and the sabotaged suppliers. Janet's eyes widened in disbelief, and Philip's face grew grim. "He bought the building, just to control you two? That's insane," Philip exclaimed, shaking his head. "He was trying to drive Jack out of business," Vicky explained, her voice tight with suppressed anger. "And he's still pushing the Houston job on me, trying to make me choose." Janet gasped. "Oh, Vicky, that's horrible. And Jack, you're a restaurant, this is your dream." "We're fighting him," Jack said, his jaw set. "But it's taking a toll. Financially, emotionally, it's constant." "Philip, ever a pragmatist, have you thought about legal action? What he's doing, it sounds like harassment, possibly even illegal interference with your business." "We've considered it," Vicky replied. "But lawyers are expensive, and with all the fines and the increased rent, money is already incredibly tight, and who knows how long a legal battle would drag on." Janet looked at them, her eyes filled with sympathy. "Oh, you too! I'm so sorry. Is there anything we can do to help?" "Just knowing you're here, that you care, means a lot," Jack said, a genuine smile touching his lips. Their friend's support was a powerful bomb against Mr. Bradford's venom. Philip, however, was still thoughtful. "I have a friend, a lawyer, who specializes in real estate and small business disputes. He might be willing to offer some initial advice. Pro bono, at least you could understand your options." A flicker of hope ignited in Jack and Vicky's eyes. "Really, Philip? That would be amazing." "Of course," Philip said, already pulling out his phone. "We're your friends. We're not going to let some bully destroy your lives, especially not after you two practically saved my wedding." He winked at Janet, who laughed. The conversation with Janet and Philip, though sobering in its details, left Jack and Vicky with a renewed sense of resolve. They weren't alone. They had each other, their friends, and even Jack's mother, all standing with them against the formidable Mr. Bradford. The fight was far from over, but now they had a clearer path forward, a glimmer of hope that they could, indeed, win this battle. The postcards and the visit from their friends were more than just updates. They were reminders of the love and community that sustained them, a powerful force against the isolation Mr. Bradford sought to impose. Chapter 11. The conversation with Philip's lawyer friend, Mr. Henderson, had been enlightening, if not entirely reassuring. He confirmed that Mr. Bradford's actions bordered on, if not outright crossed, the line into illegal harassment and business interference. However, he also warned them that proving it in court would be a long, arduous, and expensive process, requiring meticulous documentation of every incident. Armed with this knowledge, Jack and Vicky began to meticulously record every interaction with Mr. Bradford, the dates of his unannounced visits, the specific violations he cited, the details of the increased rent, and the names of the suppliers who had mysteriously cut ties. It was a tedious, draining task, but it gave them a sense of agency, a feeling that they were fighting back, not just passively enduring. Mr. Bradford, however, seemed to sense their renewed resolve. His tactics escalated, becoming less subtle and more aggressive. He stopped making veiled threats and started issuing direct ultimatums. One afternoon, a notice was slapped onto the front door of the Regal Beagle, not just on their apartment door. It stated, in stark, official-looking print, that the restaurant was in violation of a newly enforced noise ordinance and would face immediate closure if the issue was not rectified. The irony was not lost on Jack. The Regal Beagle had always been a lively place, but never excessively loud, and the building had never had such an ordinance before. A noise ordinance. This is insane, Jack exclaimed, ripping the notice down. He's just making things up now. He's trying to get you shut down. Jack, Vicky said, her voice tight with anger. He knows this is your busiest time. He knows you can't just turn down the music or ask people to whisper. It's a direct attack on your business. The next day, a city inspector, clearly sent by Mr. Bradford, arrived, armed with a decibel meter. He measured the ambient noise in the restaurant, then the music, then the general chatter. He wrote a report, his face impassive, and left without a word. A few days later, another official letter arrived, stating that the Regal Beagle was indeed in violation and would be issued a cease and desist order within a week if the noise levels weren't drastically reduced. Jack was at his wit's end. How could he run a restaurant, a place meant for socializing and enjoyment, in silence? He tried turning down the music, but the atmosphere immediately suffered. Customers looked confused. The energy of the place dampened. This is impossible, Vicky, Jack said, running a hand through his hair. I can't run a restaurant like a library. He's trying to strangle us slowly. Vicky, however, had an idea. What if we fight back? Not with lawyers yet, but with publicity. Jack looked at her, puzzled. Publicity? What do you mean? Think about it. He's a respected businessman, right? He cares about his reputation. What if the local paper, or even a consumer advocacy group, got wind of what he's doing? A wealthy businessman harassing a small, independent restaurant owner, simply because he doesn't approve of his daughter's personal choices. It would be a scandal. Jack's eyes widened. It was a risky move, one that could backfire spectacularly, but it was also a gamble that might just pay off. Mr. Bradford thrived on control and discretion. Exposing his petty, vindictive actions to the public might be the one thing that truly threatened him. They drafted a letter detailing Mr. Bradford's harassment, the fabricated violations, the supplier interference, and the exorbitant rent increases. They included copies of the notices, their meticulous records, and even a few testimonials from disgruntled former suppliers. Vicky, drawing on her professional experience, helped craft the narrative, making it compelling and legally sound. They sent copies to local newspapers, a few consumer protection agencies, and even a prominent local business ethics watchdog group. Then, they waited, holding their breath. The response was swift, though not from the sources they had initially targeted. Instead, Mr. Bradford himself appeared at their door, his face a mask of barely controlled rage, a crumpled copy of their letter clutched in his hand. Victoria. Jack, what is the meaning of this? He thundered, his voice booming through the apartment. You think you can just slander my good name? Accuse me of harassment? This is outrageous. It's the truth, Dad, Vicky said, her voice steady, though her heart pounded in her chest. Every word of it is true, and we have the documentation to prove it. Jack stepped forward, his own anger finally boiling over. You've been systematically trying to destroy my business, Mr. Bradford, just because you don't like who your daughter loves. We're not going to stand for it anymore. Mr. Bradford's face turned an unhealthy shade of purple. You ungrateful, you think you can blackmail me? I will crush you. I will close this restaurant down, and I will make sure you never work in this city again. His threats were no longer veiled. They were open, vicious, and terrifying. You try it, Jack said, his voice low and dangerous. We've got evidence, Mr. Bradford, and if you force our hand, we'll take it to the highest court we can find, and then your good name won't be worth a dime. The confrontation was explosive, a raw display of power and defiance. Mr. Bradford, for the first time, seemed genuinely shaken. He had underestimated their resolve, their willingness to fight back. He glared at them, his eyes blazing with hatred.